Buenos dias, Gunners Collective TV. Back at it. You already know. Like a torta with some bad habits. Bye, bye. Look at the thumbnail. That's duck lips. Let's go. Welcome back to the channel. And if you haven't already hit that like and subscribe button, make sure you go ahead and do that. Put your notification bell on all so that way you're directing the direction of the dope content that the gun stays kicking. And I appreciate your support, man. I'm very humbled by it. So Pearl, Lucy Goosey Pearl, right? Pearl Fernandez is back in the media, right? And for those of you that don't know who Pearl Fernandez is, she is the mother. Well, I digress. She is the woman who birthed Gabriel Fernandez, who unfortunately, if you haven't seen the Netflix documentary that was done several years ago, was put through a lot of bad situations. Pobrecito mijo, right? He is someone that I do a video on or I speak on at least yearly ever since I started YouTube content creation because his voice needs to continue to be heard. He's an angel, okay? He set a precedent. He exposed how the CPS system and how alleged mothers and fathers abuse children and CPS overlooks it. Okay, he is a kid that went through so many things by so many people for so little reason. Okay, Pearl Fernandez is back. Now, Pearl Fernandez was given a life sentence. Her boyfriend at the time, Isato Aguirre, was given the death penalty, and now he is doing a life term on an SNY yard. I try to keep up with these individuals because I want to see their demise. I don't believe, in fact, I believe they've been eating off the taxpayer and eating off the system for too long. But Pearl Fernandez has come out the shadows, all sucked up, sucked back, straight up tweaked out, right? And looked like she's living her best life in the California prison system. Now, it's going to be different for Isato than it is for her. For Isato, he has to live every day knowing that that day could be his last. Kind of like the Jake Harrell situation, right? Because of what he did to Gabriel, which was a very publicized story, made national news. And like I said, they made a big Netflix documentary off of it that did millions and millions of views. People know who he is. Okay, his appearance may have changed, but his diabolical ways and what he's incarcerated for never has nor never will, right? The things he did to Gabriel, I can't even speak on, let alone understand how a human being, a grown man, could do that to a child. Okay, this is a situation where a mother had a boyfriend living in the home that was jealous of her child, and she chose his side over her child's side. She didn't protect her kid. She didn't protect the ways of her life. Instead, she got on drugs. She agreed to do whatever that man wanted to do. She was stuck on the pito and the pipa all at the same time, and that was a perfect storm for disaster for her child. Her child cried out for help. There was teachers at school that seen the bruises, that seen the markings, that knew what time it was. Something was going on in that home. And they reported it to CPS, and CPS overlooked it. Okay? So when we think about our children, how safe are they? They're only as safe as we make it for them. Okay? Once they walk out of that door and they go to school, you put your child into that teacher's hands. You put your child into the school district's hands. You're hoping and praying that they come back the same way they left the home. But in Gabriel's case, he was worse off at home. He was better off at school. And the teachers tried and they tried, but it didn't work. Eventually, he succumbed to his injuries that he was getting gradually over time. And Isato, like I said, was given all day, and so was Pearl. Now, Pearl, it's a couple different twists and turns with this animal, right? She gets locked up in Chowchilla Prison, Valley State Prison for women. And of course, everybody knows what time it is with her. Now, a female prison is different from a men's institution or men's prison. In a men's prison is do or die, die or do, okay? Or die for what you don't do or what you do. It's very gang related. It's racially motivated. There's a lot of different politics, a lot of different groups that are living the way they live, and that's just how it is. And you need to walk that fine line depending upon your race, depending upon your gang, your affiliation, and what you're in for. And with the Sato man, because he's placed on the SNY protective custody yards, he's been able to wiggle. Now, not without incident. There has been a couple incidents that have occurred. In fact, one about a year ago where he got rushed on the tier. I did a video on it, right? He was a tier tender. They pushed up on him. Now, best believe, size, intimidation, everything's a factor in prison. People say, oh, it doesn't matter about your size. It does. It kind of does. If it's a bigger dude, it's going to make you think twice about how many holes you have to put in them. Rather than 4 or 5, we're going to put in 100 or 150. That's just how it is. Then you got guys who do overkill, man, and they'll just put too many in you for too many different fucking reasons. Now, Isaru, right, has went through some changes, but Pearl also has. Pearl, in fact, got beat up and rushed in the kitchen where she was cut with the top of an applesauce container, and she had hot water thrown on her. What did they do? They segregated her. They put her with people that are more in tune with her crime, people that also have similar crimes. And she's over there putting on makeup. It looks like that bitch had Botox. She's all tore back. She looks like Dr. Pimple Popper popped her pimple. She's up. She's stafea. She looks like the Wicked Witch of the Southeast, right? So again, she looks bad. She looks horrible, terrible. But according to what she thinks, she's living her best life. Why should we, as taxpayers and as people, man, that have seen the horrific crimes perpetrated on children, allow this to happen? Well, we have no choice. The fact is, in the women facilities, they're not tripping like men facilities on gangs and groups and gaggles. They're more so tripping on emotional ties and relationships. That's just how the women rock, right? There's going to be women that are in there and try to justify that they hurt their children because they were sprung on a dude or because they were on drugs. And there's going to be a lot of women that are in there that are forgiven. Now, that doesn't mean all of them are like that. And that is why Pearl Fernandez was assaulted. From what I hear, she likes to run her fucking mouth. She has a big mouth. It seems like she never learned her lesson. We're talking about a woman who took the life of her own child or basically helped this man do it. And you would think that that would break her heart, and eventually she would get her shit together and rethink her situation and be like, I'm doing all day in prison. My son is gone. My other children are with relatives or in the system. This man that I thought loved me, he's gone. I'll never see him again. The baby's father, right, who at the time was a Southsider man that didn't know exactly what was going on. And that sucks, man, because Pearl Fernandez was keeping him away from his child, and also incarceration was keeping him away from his child. And I'm sure that man right now thinks about his child a lot and is like, man, I wish I could have prevented that. If he ever comes into contact with Isato, I'm sure it's going to be game over. I say that to say this. Pearl Fernandez has just been interviewed for a new upcoming documentary. 20 years later, or 10, 15 years later, however long it's been, people are still talking about it because I know I do. And now she's still talking about it and doesn't seem remorseful. She's playing the victim role. Like, hey, it was because of this man. She got caught up with this and that. And she wasn't thinking soundly. Look, I know a lot of women that are in abusive relationships. A lot of women that will go through some changes for the pito. They would go through some changes for love. They would go through some changes because they are manipulated. But at the same time, when it comes to their children being touched, or when it comes to their children being in an area where they're hearing loud voices and things, most women will leave that man immediately and will step away and say, you know what, my kids come before anything. That's a motherly instinct. That's what mothers do. Fathers are a little bit different. Okay, if you have it and you love your child, then you're willing to go to the ends of the earth for your child and do whatever you want or do whatever you have to do, right? Yesterday, I'm used to doing my content creation, but I woke up bright and early in the morning, and there's one particular present that my 14-year-old's been begging me for, and I was always going to get it, but I just like to hear her ask, right? Because I love any type of communication I can have with my child, because, when they're teenagers, they ain't trying to talk to you. They shut their door. They're on that phone talking to their homegirl, and that's that, right? So anytime we can sit down and have a conversation, whether it's dad, you're an asshole, that, I love it because it's interaction with my child, and because I love my kids so much, I want that communication. I'm building a bond, right? And so I was always willing to get whatever she wanted, but she's spoiled. She's like, Dad, I need Lululemon and this, and I don't know what the fuck that is. You know what I'm saying? I know a homeboy named Lulu and a chick that I've owned back in the days named Lulu, and I don't really particularly care to eat lemons, but I'm going to go get this Lululemon. And it was the last one in store, and it was very expensive, and I got it. That's the bond I share with my daughter. Now, monetary things don't mean nothing compared to a simple hug or I love you. That means much more, especially to the parent. To the child, it'll mean much more to them eventually when they get older and they understand and they have their own kids. Then they realize you were there for them. Now, when it comes to Pearl, she was never that. She wasn't a loving mother. She wasn't a careful mother. What she was a diabolical monster that allowed man after man in her home and allowed this man in particular to take his abusive ways and his anger and jealousy out on her son. And now she's been given a platform again to speak. Look, I understand this man giving her the interview. Look, I'll be totally honest with you. There's a lot of people that would sit down with a monster like that to hear their side of the story. But I don't want to hear her side of the story. I don't care. There's no justification for what she did. And of course, her ugly ass is trying to play the victim role. Oh, same thing Rebecca Harrell's going to do when she goes to court. I told you guys a long time ago. I was in an abusive relationship. He manipulated me. I was scared for my life. No, you were scared, bitch, for your life, but you weren't scared for your child's life. When this dude over here was using BB guns to do whatever he did to Gabriel Pearl, you weren't doing that. You weren't protecting him. You didn't jump in front of the gun. Nah, in fact, what you did is sat there, laughed, and kept smoking the pipa and then giving mamones at night to a monster. She's as much of a monster as he is, and she doesn't deserve to get any clout or any views or any recognition on a new documentary. But that's what's going to happen. Okay? She is someone who should have been up out of here a long time ago. But like I said, man, these people do not suffer the ultimate consequence, which should be exactly what their child had to go through. Let's see what a BB gun feel like one time. Okay, no Pearl? Instead, she has duck lips, makeup and mascara, and from what I'm hearing, she's over there running her big-ass, fat, fucking skinny mouth and living her best life. She's in prison doing life, but she's running the pod where she's at. They put her in a pod with a whole bunch of women that have the same similar cases, and a lot of these women don't have the mentality or that thuggish, ruggish bone that Pearl has. See, Pearl comes from the gang lifestyle, not necessarily saying she was a gang member, but she grew up around it. So she has that thug mentality. Now, there's nothing gangster about a woman that allows a man to do what he did to her son, her child, right? But at the same time, she knows the street ways. So she's going to go in there, and because she's around a whole bunch of willy lumps, a whole bunch of chicks that are scared for their lives, she's going to push her weight around. Okay, she's going to be that OG veterana. But at the end of the day, she's the worst one of all. Now, there's a lot of women and a lot of men that are incarcerated right now in the state of California and throughout the United States and all over the world for some similar charges or some similar cases, maybe even worse, right? I don't know how worse you can get to torture murder, but I'm sure there is, right? But they don't get as much recognition or seen or interviewed because their case wasn't as big or publicized like baby Gabriel's was, right? But I still don't believe that in this documentary, they should let her sit there and tell her side of the story and play the victim. Fuck her side of the story. The only side of the story we know is that Mijo died for no reason. Okay, there's been people that alleged that there was some tendencies that he was displaying and that guy didn't like it, so he wanted to make a man out of him by shooting him with BB guns. Stop it, man. I'm not trying to hear that. Okay? I'm not trying to hear putting a kid in a cage. I'm not trying to hear or see none of that. That was the hardest documentary in my life. There's been 2 documentaries that I've seen where I couldn't watch them all the way through. One was Gabriel. The other one was baby Brianna. Could not do it. That was fucking nuts, right? The uncles, the dad, the brothers, the mom who is now out. She is out walking the streets, living her best life. You know, Pearl Fernandez, don't get it twisted. There is still an opportunity for this fucking evil monster to get out one day and to maybe even have children or be around them. It's crazy, right? So anyways, this interview is done and a documentary is coming up, I'm sure, on Netflix or maybe some other channel. And a lot of people are going to tune in because they want to hear her side of the story. Who would care? All I care about is my taxpaying money is feeding that fucking monster every day. Okay? Look, like I said, in the women's facility, you can't expect a woman to be touched. You can't expect, they don't have protective custody, but they will put you around people that are similar. And that's exactly where she's at. And from what people are saying, like every time she comes in contact with the general population women, she's running her mouth. She's talking shit. Basically like, yeah, so what? You can't get me. She's not showing emotion for her son. She's not rehabilitating herself and changing her ways and admitting and understanding what she did and what she was a part of. Instead, she's in there living that prison life, running her mouth, talking shit, willing to fight and do whatever, right? Because she thinks she's badass because she's Pearl Fernandez. Well, guess what, you bitch, right? Straight up. If you don't like it, earmuff it because I'm a little hostile right here. When it comes to her, man, I ain't going to give her no clout, no benefit of the doubt. This video is to say, man, for those people that are interviewing her, man, cut her shit up out of there. You know what I'm saying? You can show her ugly face, We want to see that, to see how she's all sucked up and sucked in, and she knows about sucking. But one thing she does know is that she's going to go ahead and try to manipulate the masses, thinking that she's the victim. She's locked up and she's going through so much hardship. She deserves a whole lot more. And this is a lesson for Rebecca Harrell as well. This is what you're going to have to go through. Being incarcerated and everyone looking at you like an animal in a zoo. You know, understanding that every day you have to live with the grief of what you did to your child behind a man. And it is behind a man. Let's be real. These weren't just two evil women that went out of their way to fucking poison someone or do something like that. No, they have a very similar story. They got with two men that had tendencies to be a coward and to hurt children, who didn't play by the rules, who didn't know how to be a parent. Why? You know, Jake's is crazy. He's his own son. It doesn't matter. Israel was the stepdad, right? Or excuse me, Izaro Aguirre was the stepdad. Doesn't matter. Okay, anytime you choose to be in a relationship, it's a package deal. When I met a woman with children, I treated her children like my own. This is a fact. I have a baby mama that had a son when I met her. I don't miss a Christmas. Okay, she has a new boyfriend. She's having new babies. She's living her life. But guess what? I was in that child's life. He looked at me as a father figure for so many years. And I don't miss Christmases and birthdays. Why? Even though we're not together and we're no longer like that, still, that child looked at me a certain way. And because I'm not going to switch up now. I'm not going to forgive and forget. That doesn't, just because our relationship doesn't work out, it was a package deal. And I extended my hand in fatherhood to that child because that's the type of man I am. Right? So I do for all. That's what real men do. Now, I'm not necessarily saying guys go out there and support your ex's kids, because I know a lot of guys are like, nah, that ain't my kid. I'm only taking care of mine. Right? I get it. And I understand it. But at the same time, man, if you're willing to deal with someone and they're willing to deal with you, works both ways. And you're a man and you have children and it's a package deal. You treat those kids like your own. And in some cases, you treat them a little bit better because they've been through some shit. Right? Anyways, Pearl is a piece of shit. Okay, Jake, Rebecca, Isato, all them. Okay, this could have all been prevented if someone would have cared. Now, in Gabriel's case, man, there was plenty of signs, telltale signs. You know, baby Emmanuel was still baby. No one even knew he existed. His existed. Now we know he existed and we love him, right? But no one even knew this poor baby existed. See, Gabriel, people did, but they didn't do enough to prevent what happened. So now Pearl in this new interview trying to relive this situation. None of us want to relive it. We're not going to forget it. We're not going to forget to be the voice of Mijo, but at the same time, we don't want her side of the story on anything. I know I don't. Now Gunner, you're going to tune in? Absolutely, I'm going to tune in. But I'm going to tune out when it comes to her ass. Because I want to see what this documentary is based upon. I want to see if they're going to try to make a case for this fucking dumb bitch, right? I want to see if they're going to try to justify that she was an abused woman and that she needed to survive the only way she could. I don't care if you survive. I don't care if I survive. I only care about if my children prosper and survive. That's what means. Once you become a parent, that's all that should matter to you. You're going out, you're partying, you're drinking, you're kicking it. Yeah, if you're in your own home and you want to have a couple of drinks, you're a grown man, do your thing, grown woman. Live your best life, right? Because you deserve it. But all that partying and doing this, kicking it with the homies and all that, and being activated and all that, I'm done. The moment my kids were born, man, that should have been, obviously for me, it took a little while and a little time to understand that. But now being a parent and a grandparent, I totally understand it, man. Your life is over and it's only going to get better because now you got other people that need you and look up to you. Pearl was not that one. She doesn't deserve to get to fucking airtime. That bitch is all bad, up there all sucked up. Well, it's because you're stupid. It's because you're stupid and you let a man manipulate you, and even more so than that. And I know there's going to be feminists that come in here, oh, Gunner, you're against women. I'm not against women, man. I love women. All women are beautiful, every shape, every size. And you know me, I like the biggins, right? Bang, bang, right? So that's just me. But at the same time, in the meantime, in between time, this chick is not a woman. She is a creature and looks like one. Have you seen the new pictures? Anyways, with that being said, man, I just want to put my 2 cents in on what I think about this new documentary coming out and this interview. From the clips that I seen, she's trying to justify what she did. And she got everything coming that's in the negatory. And that's what's up. Thumbs up or thumbs down. See, Heavy's going to be the head that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to strive, struggle, and strive for what I truly and honestly believe in. And that's the betterment of all people. I don't know if you guys are going to watch this documentary or this interview when it comes out, but I'm here to tell you from the clips that I seen, This chick is toe back from the flow back, right? She is looking like Schmiegel, that looks like Schmiegel. You know what I'm saying? Bad. You know what I'm saying? She's like, I need the ring. I need the ring. Nah, bitch, what you need, I can't say. This is the gun. Bang, bang. All of a sudden, they're giving her clout. Wow.